Amagana Chimendasya Gana Gana Salakaya Chaksusu Militaye Natasma Shri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobishta Stapita Yena Bhutalin Swayamrupa Kadamanya Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sita Parakamala Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sabhajatan Sahagana Raghunata Vitanta Sajivan Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saita Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devan Sri Radha Krishna Parasahagana Lalita Sri Vishakavitam Sri He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radha Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakapatarabhyascha Kripasindhibhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanalebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo 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 Mahavajanyaya Krishna Pima Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurate Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadhara Siva Shadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Ananda Lila Maya Vigraya Himabada Vichavi Sundaraya Tasma Maha Prema Rasa Padaya Chaitanya Chandrayo Namanamostate Chaitanya Chandrayo Namanamostate. So I thank everyone for coming here this evening to our nightly Bhagavad Gita class. I also welcome the audience from Vrindavan TV. So those who are watching on TV and those who are here, everybody can get some benefit from hearing the recitation of Bhagavad Gita, which is spoken by Lord Sri Krishna to his dear disciple Arjuna. So Lord Krishna is the perfect Guru, Krishna Bandi Jagat Guru. And Arjuna is a perfect disciple. He heard submissively the message of the Bhagavad Gita, and then after hearing, he acted according to the instructions of Lord Sri Krishna. So that should be our goal also. When we hear Bhagavad Gita faithfully, then we should also act on the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita. So today we are in chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita, text number 38. This is the topic of the Karma Yoga. So Lord Krishna continue instructing Arjuna. Especially now, Arjuna had asked the question about what is the greatest enemy of man? What is the greatest enemy of man? Yeah. So this is the question that Arjuna had asked. And then Lord Krishna told him that yes, the greatest enemy is calm, lust. So this is what we're going to deliberate on today, about the calm, lust. And this calm, it has different degrees of covering. It covers one different ways. Actually, how lust covers the intelligence. So Krishna is telling Arjuna here. So we can read together. Dhūmenāvriyate vahnir. Is anybody? Yathādarśo malena yatholbenāvṛto garbhas tathā tenedam āvṛtam dhūmena. By smoke, āvṛiyate is covered. Vahnir, fire, yathā, just as, ādarśaḥ, mirror, malena, by dust, also, yathā, just as, ulbena, by the womb, āvṛtaḥ is covered, garbhas, embryo, tathā, so, tena, by that lust, idam, this, āvṛtam, is covered. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are 3 degrees of covering of the living entity by which its pure consciousness is obscured. The covering is both lust under different manifestations, like smoke in the fire, dust on the mirror, and the wound about the embryo. When lust is compared to smoke, it is understood that the fire of the living spark can be a little perceived. In other words, when the living entity exhibits his Kṛṣṇa consciousness slightly, he may be likened to the fire covered by smoke. Although fire is necessary where there is smoke, there is no overt manifestation of fire in the early stage. This stage is like the beginning of Kṛṣṇa consciousness. The dust on the mirror refers to a cleansing process of the mirror of the living entity of the mind by so many spiritual methods. The best process is to chant the holy names of the Lord. The embryo covered by the womb is an analogy illustrating a helpless position. For the child in the womb is so helpless that he cannot even move. This stage of living condition can be compared to that of the trees. The trees are also living entities, but they have been put in such a condition of life by such a great exhibition of lust that they are almost void of all consciousness. The covered mirror is compared to the birds and beasts, and smoke-covered fire is compared to the human being. In the form of a human being, the living entity may revive a little Kṛṣṇa consciousness. And if he makes further development, the fire of spiritual life can be kindled in the human form of life. By careful handling of the smoke in the fire, fire can be made to blaze. Therefore, The human form of life is a chance for the living entity to escape the entanglement of material existence. In the human form of life, one can conquer the enemy, lust, by cultivation of Kṛṣṇa consciousness under able guidance. Dhūmenāvriyate vahnir, yathādarśo malena, yatholbenāvṛto garbhas, tathā tenedam āvṛtam. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust. So this is the condition of everyone in this material world, how everyone is covered. Actually, the comparison has been made to the intelligence. Actually, the living entity's awareness or intelligence is covered by calm, lust, and because of this covering, so the living entity is unable to understand his position, which is to be a servant of Kṛṣṇa, God. So he mentioned that this calm is said to be eternal enemy. Is eternal enemy. So the true knowledge of the wise is covered by the eternal enemy in the form of lust, which burns like fire and can never be started. So just like in the next verse, he mentioned the āvṛtam tena kama rupena kuntiya duspurina. This is what the Lord is saying. The next verse saying that the living entity is covered by the eternal enemy in the form of lust. In the form of lust. And what is this lust? Lust means the desire. The desire to be the controller in the material world. The desire. So, actually, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada had commenting about this. In the very first verse of Bhagavatam, in the Jamandiyasya Yathā sloka, the very first verse. So in the middle of the purport, Srila Prabhupada said, it's said that how Srila Vishnu Chakravarti is talking about the ādarśaḥ, the original condition or the original mellow of the living entity. So Srila Prabhupada said, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur specifically deals with the original and pure sex psychology, ādarśaḥ, devoid of all mundane inebriety. The whole material creation is moving under the principle of sex life. In modern civilization, sex life is the focal point for all activities. Wherever one turns his face, he sees sex life predominant. Therefore, sex life is not unreal. Its reality is experienced in the spiritual world. The material sex life is but a perverted reflection of the original fact. The original fact is in the absolute truth, and thus the absolute truth cannot be impersonal. So basically, it's like Purport is talking here about this, the sex life, which is like the basis of material creation. Now, like Srila Kaviraj Goswami is also saying in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 4 Adi Lila, is mentioning that he said there are two things. One is Atma Indriya, and the other one is Kṛṣṇa Indriya. Kṛṣṇa Indriya and Atma Indriya, which means the Atma Indriya means one's senses, and Kṛṣṇa Indriya means the senses of Kṛṣṇa. So he's saying the desire to enjoy one's senses, Atmendriya Pratibhancha, desire to enjoy one's senses, this is calm, lust. Lust, that desire to enjoy one's senses, and Kṛṣṇa Indriya Pratibhancha, that the desire to gratify the senses of Kṛṣṇa, this is prem. So which means prem and calm, they are two totally opposite. They're not the same. They're not the same. In the spiritual world or in devotional life, everyone want to gratify the senses of Kṛṣṇa. Everyone want to supply Kṛṣṇa's enjoyment. Everyone do everything for enjoyment of Kṛṣṇa. This is called prem. Whereas in the material world, everyone will do everything for one's own gratification. This is calm. So therefore, in the material world, there's only calm, lust. Whereas in the spiritual world, there's prem. There is no calm, there is no prem in the material world. In the material world, prem is not there. Our conception of prem in material world or love, this is simply based on illusion, because there is no prem in the material world, because everything is based on one's own individual sense gratification. And this desire is always going on. The Lord said, He said, dhūmenāvriyate. He said, this desire to enjoy one's own self is always burning like fire, and there is never any end to it. Just like if the fire is burning and you put fuel into it, you put petrol into it, the fire will just keep on, exploding, keep on burning. So that's our situation in the material world. That yes, we want to gratify our desires, but there is never any end to it. There's never any solution, because the more we try to satisfy desire, one desire is satisfied, immediately we want something else. Immediately something else. That's why in this material world, no matter how anyone gets something, no matter what someone possesses, there is never any satisfaction to it. That's a fact. People have so much money in this material world. There's so many rich people in this material world. But the rich people, no matter how much money they possess, they still want more. You have millionaires, you have billionaires. Somebody have $100 million now. Now he want to aspire to have $1 billion. And if he has $1 billion, he want to aspire to have $10 billion. We have a person who is the richest person in the world. Then you ask him, now he has become the richest person in the world now, is he satisfied? No. He wants to increase his wealth. More and more. There is never end to it. There is never end to it. That is the nature of material world. There's never any satisfaction. Because the sense is always burning, like The son is always agitating for more and more. And the senses, they're always competing with each other. So there's never any satisfaction to it. Just like one time, there's one billionaire. This fellow, he had like a $20 billion. And then there was some stock crash. So he lost about $10 billion in his turn. So he's left with $10 billion. So this person said, "Oh, this life is so horrible. I have only $10 billion." And then he killed himself. He felt that, "Oh, this is $10 billion. How can I live with $10 billion?" So he killed himself. There are so many countries, their national budget is not even $10 billion. So many countries. But that is the nature of material world. Material world makes everyone crazy. It makes you crazy because the more you possess, the more you want to possess. You never get any satisfaction. Whereas a Christian devotee who's developing love of Kṛṣṇa is always satisfied. It's always peaceful. A Christian devotee. Chaitanya Prabhu said, Kṛṣṇa Bhakta Niskam Ataiva Shanto Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakalya Shanto. Chaitanya Prabhu said, a devotee of Kṛṣṇa who is serving Kṛṣṇa is always satisfied. It's always peaceful. Why? Because he has no desire. He has no desire. He has no personal desire. Desire is simply how to render service to Kṛṣṇa, how to glorify the sense of Kṛṣṇa. For him personally, he has no personal desire except desire to gratify Kṛṣṇa's senses. It's a Kṛṣṇa indriya, icha, desire to satisfy Kṛṣṇa's. So therefore, a devotee is always peaceful, a devotee of Kṛṣṇa. Whereas others, the kamis, the gyanis, the muktis, the siddhas, they never satisfy because they always want more. Because they have desires. And this desire, this is calm. So therefore, the Lord is saying in the Bhagavad Gita here, that there are different degrees of calm, different degrees of this lust. Some of them, it's just like when the fire is covered by smoke. Dhūmenāvriyate. When the fire is covered by smoke, normally if you see smoke somewhere, even though we don't see the fire, but there's a smoke. As they say that wherever there is smoke, there must be fire. So the smoke is there. The fire is there where you see the smoke. But the fire itself is not seen, but you can see this. You can see the smoke. That is one covering of the soul. The covering, which is compared to the smoke. And another covering is called yathādarśo malena. That when the mirror is covered by dust. Just like you have a mirror in your house and it's completely covered with dust. So you cannot really see yourself. You cannot see yourself. So you have to wipe it off completely. You have to wipe it off before you can see. And then another covering of the soul is yathōbenāvṛto. Yathōbena, which means the ulbena, the embryo, the garbhas, the embryo covered by the womb. So normally the child is inside the womb and it's just completely in a tight place, tight situation, and the child is he cannot stretch the leg. So many things like it. Very, very tough situation for the child to be in, And that's why Lokapila was saying in the third canto Bhagavatam how the living entity is so much covered, so much. The situation of the living entity in the womb is so precarious. So many insects, worms biting the fetus, biting the body of the child, and sometimes depending on the kind of liquid or the food that the mother consumes, that affects the child. So the child is in the child in the womb is in a very precarious situation, that someone that the child would actually be, lamenting, would be crying, lamenting, and calling out to God, and my dear Lord, I'm in this situation because of my previous actions. I'm praying to you to free me from this terrible condition, and I promise you that as soon as I come out of this womb, I'm going to serve you. But of course, even though the child made the promise, but the moment you come out of the womb, then he forget it. So the covering is said to be the topmost, the highest kind of covering for the intelligence, for the living entity, because the embryo is covered by the womb. So there is no way out. It's totally covered. So the three type of covering is there for the living entities. Now the Acharyas, they've described 5 types of consciousness that the living entities have. 5 types of consciousness. These consciousness are Anamoi, Pranamoi, Manamoi, Gyanamoi, and Anandamoi. These are five types of consciousness. The first consciousness is not really consciousness, it's just a condition, because the living entity cannot perceive any consciousness, cannot perceive anything. This is called Anamoi, whereby it's basically animalistic existence that one is in. And in this type of situation, the living entity only think of food. This is called Anamoi. Only think of food. There's nothing else around, just the food. Just like the trees and those entities who have the dullest consciousness. So they can only perceive they can only think of food. That's all that's about it. And then another type of consciousness is called a pranamoi. That's the second stage, the pranamoi. This is when one begins to perceive the existence of other living entities. The existence of other living entities, just like the animals, they are aware that there are other living entities also. That is called a pranamoi. Prana means life, that there is life besides oneself. So that is the second stage of consciousness. And then the third stage is called manamoi. This is the stage of thinking. Normally, this is the stage when one becomes a human being. One starts thinking. One develops awareness of thinking, of maybe life is full of struggle. Life is full of trouble, and one is making every effort to solve the life's problems. One is making effort. This is called manamoi. Basically, this is the stage. This is the stage of existence in this material world, especially with the human beings. And then the next stage, it's called dhūmenāvriyate, the knowledge. Where one actually starts developing knowledge, the knowledge of the self. So, for example, here mentioned here, dhūmenāvriyate vahnir, whereby the fire is covered with smoke. The fire covered by smoke. So when the fire is covered by smoke, the potentiality of smoke becoming fire is there. So which means there has to be some just little bit of fanning, then the fire will blaze. The fire will come out. So similarly also, when someone is receiving the knowledge of Kṛṣṇa consciousness, so the potential to develop full knowledge of oneself is there. That potential is there to develop full knowledge of the self, to understand the self, that yes, one is a servant of God, one is a servant of Kṛṣṇa. And in that stage, and especially having meeting a pure devotee of Kṛṣṇa, and that pure devotee can initiate one into Kṛṣṇa consciousness, and by practicing the process of devotional service under the guidance of the pure devotee, then one can develop one's pure Kṛṣṇa consciousness, which is one's eternal relationship with Kṛṣṇa. So this dhūmenāvriyate, that is the stage of complete awareness, the searching for the self, trying to understand the self. And when the self is understood, and one understands oneself as a servant of the Lord, and one is rendering pure devotional service to the Lord, so the topmost stage is called ānandamaya. This is complete, full Kṛṣṇa consciousness. This is ānandamaya, whereby one becomes very, very joyful. One becomes very, very joyful as a result of full engagement in the service of Kṛṣṇa. After one becomes full awareness. So the Acharya, the Sri Thakur, has said, this whole world is covered by karma. In some places, mildly, in some places, deeply, and in some places, very deeply. So, a conscious jiva who is mildly, very mild, covered by karma, just as a fire is covered by smoke, can perform activities such as Bhagavad Smaranam. So which means when one is covered, just like the smoke, the fire is covered by smoke, so the fire covering by smoke, the potentiality of fire becoming fully alive is there, fully blazing is there. So similarly also, when the living entity is mildly covered, so at that stage, the living entities can actually engage in the Bhagavad Bhajan, in the execution of devotional service. So which means there is the propensity of smarana, Shravan, Smarana, Kirtana, it's there. The potentiality to engage in hearing and chanting and Vaishnava Sangha association, that potentiality is there when there is such in that stage, because there is a meeting with a self-realized sadhu, and that self-realized sadhu can guide one in the process of devotional activity, in the process of acting. So the mildly cover, which means the calm is there, but one is not totally covered, which means one can actually see oneself as a devotee. One can see oneself. But when there is a more covering, especially as the mirror is covered by dust, which means one cannot see anything. So the stage where one cannot see anything, so which means one cannot even see oneself as a spirit soul. One simply see oneself as just like everyone in this world. Everyone is basically engaging in karmic activities, and everyone is simply engaging in a survival for existence. It's called a struggling for survival. That's what everyone is engaging in. And because one is fully absorbed in such engagement, there's just no the thought of Atma Tattva or Atma Gyan, trying to understand the self. That thought is not there. Trying to understand that what is the nature of this material world? Why am I here? Why am I suffering? How can I get out? That thought will not be there when there is this covering of, just like when the mirror is covered by dust. One cannot see anything. One is totally complete. One is totally absorbed in illusion. So this is the situation of the jivas who have taken shelter of niskam, which means those jiva whose consciousness is only madly covered. So this Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he called this Mukulita Chetana. Chetana means consciousness. So he called it a Mukulita Chetana, which means a little open, as in the budding stage of a flower. So this is still describing the nature of a consciousness that is covered by smoke. Even if the conscious jiva has a human body, when his consciousness is deeply covered by calm, I've been describing, like a mirror covered by dust, it is not possible for him to remember Kṛṣṇa, to remember Parameshwara. It's not possible when the consciousness is deeply covered. So this is the condition of the extreme moralist and atheist. That is a jiva whose consciousness is Sankuchita Chetana, shrunken or contracted consciousness. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is using a lot of nice expression in this situation. So, and of course, they are compared to animals. And then a jiva whose consciousness is covered by intense calm, intense lust. Like the embryo covered by the womb, has a consciousness like trees, creepers, stones, and trees, and is Achadita Chetana completely covered. So, what consciousness do we want to be? Completely covered consciousness. So, in the spiritual world, everything is fully alive in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, nothing is covered. In the spiritual world, everything is fully conscious in the spiritual world. Everything. Because everything is engaging in the service of Kṛṣṇa, the Lord. The trees, the plants, the creepers, so many different elements. Everything is fully conscious in the spiritual world. Everything. Just like in the spiritual world, there is the desire tree. Desire tree, garbhaḥ. So in the garbhaḥ tree, you can go to garbhaḥ tree and ask for anything you want. You can go to garbhaḥ and ask for anything, and you will get anything you want. Just like we have a tree in the courtyard here. You can ask that tree for anything. Give me rasgulla, you will get it. Immediately you get rasgulla from the tree. Give me nice halwa, you will get it. Give me gold, you will get it. Whatever you want, you will get. That's called rasgulla. That's called desire tree. So in the spiritual world, there are so many desire trees that are there. Actually, in the Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma is saying, Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Puruso Kapataravo Jumabhumi Chintamani Ganamayito Yamamita. So, Lord Brahma is talking how in the spiritual world, how everything is fully conscious, how the ground is like Chintamani gem on the ground, and all the women there, they are Lakshmis. All the women there are Lakshmis. The trees is desire trees, and there in the spiritual world, when people are speaking, it's like singing. And when people are walking, it's like dancing. Lord Brahma is giving this, these descriptions. So we have to see, and of course, it's a good thing that we have come to this Krishna consciousness movement. And the Krishna consciousness, just like the mirror, which is covered by dust, by which one cannot see anything, but by wiping the mirror with a cloth, by wiping the dust off the mirror, then one can see oneself. One can see one's own, one's reflection in the mirror just by wiping. So similarly also, the heart, which has been covered over by this dust since time immemorial, can be cleansed through the process of Harinam Sankirtan. Harinam Sankirtan, which means we clean the heart, we remove this lust by the Harinam. So which means when we chant the Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the heart will be cleansed. The heart will be cleansed. And of course, the more we chant, the more brighter the glass, the mirror will become. The more we chant, the more day and day. Of course, in the beginning, maybe a little bit difficult in the beginning. But as we are chanting more and more, then the heart will be clean and clean and clean and clean to the point whereby we'll be able to see our true identity as a servant of Kṛṣṇa. We'll be able to see our identity. So therefore, Chaitanya Prabhu, as taught by Srila Prabhupada, he said that this Krishna consciousness movement process is a cleansing process. It's a cleansing process whereby the heart is cleansed through this. So which means by our full engagement in Krishna consciousness, by hearing and chanting, reading Bhagavad Gita, attending Bhagavad Gita class and Bhagavatam class, chanting Hare Krishna in the association of devotees, and do some service. So all these coverings will be removed. This covering will be removed. And then the true jiva will come out. True jiva will shine. A jiva is Kṛṣṇa Das, will shine. And then there will be happiness. There will be complete bliss. Anandamaya means the stage of complete happiness, complete ananda, complete bliss, full consciousness, which is Krishna consciousness. So this is the point, the basic point of this text, which we are reading today. So by our engagement in Krishna consciousness activities, then these coverings will not be there anymore. Okay. So thank you very much. If there is any question or comment, you can please go ahead. Okay. So it's good. You should come every evening to hear Bhagavad Gita class, and also we should read Bhagavad Gita at home, Bhagavatam at home, and also we should try to hear Prabhupada's class in our house. The class available. You can get the audio tapes of Prabhupada lectures. You can hear Prabhupada's lectures. So you have all the ammunition. The ammunition is there to make you become Krishna conscious. You have all the ammunition. Hearing and chanting and association and associating with the devotees. Okay, so no question. So thank you very much for coming. Srila Prabhupada ki